Now, the design of raves in this material and binary circuits, what Ra wants us to see is that they establish for us now in terms of how we can understand the rave. So that's what our focus is going to be today. How does this apply to these raves, our material and binary circuits? You can see material, different keynote, and then the binary circuit, different keynote, okay, different function. Form and function. So first let's go back to our evolutionary forms. You remember that Ra was told, mystically speaking, that we had an evolutionary process, and we began in the normal progression of things with 3. Such a magical, mystical number, that 3. Yeah, so we began with 3 centers, and then 5. Oh, what happened to my animation? There we go. 3 centers, then 5, then the 7, and then the 9. So just to understand that this 3, 7, 3, 5, 7, 9, 3, 5, 7, and 9 is the natural order of things. Now next would be 11. That was part of what he was told, how forms developed in cycles, even before Uranus or Neptune being conscious to us in the solar system. So if there was an evolutionary progression that was going to continue on this world through a new round, it would begin the emergence of this new form of the 11, but he was told that in this reality, what he was told was that there would not be the opportunity for us to jump to the 11 form. So the fact of what it is to be an 11-centered form would be an embodiment of what the rave itself is ultimately intended to be. But raves are not going to get that opportunity in terms of what Ra was told, because we're not going to get there here on this planet. When it comes to thinking about this 9-centered vehicle, because that's where we are here and now, this is what we're in, we cannot experience the 7-centered. It would be impossible. We can't know, really what it was like to be them. No more can we know what an 11 would be, just because we don't have access to that. This is what is here and now, this 9-centered human creature, Homo sapien in transitus for us, and then for some in future, after 2027, the rave. So the rave born into this form, interregnum experience, could not experience what it is to be an 11 either. So it's just interesting that what is happening now, we're not in the full mathematical completion of the process. So raves themselves, just like we who are human are limited to these 9-centered forms that are not fully mutated yet. Think about the rave in their 9-centered mutated form, not able to fully self-actualize, I don't want to say self actually, penta-actualize, because they won't have the full expression of the 11-centered form. So humans are limited in our 9-centered vehicle, and raves will be limited in their 9-centered vehicle as well. So just something to think about. So the design of raves, material and binary circuits. Let's dive in. Material circuit for this rave aspect is gather. Easy to remember if you link the word keynote of the gatherer of the 45 to this particular construct that you see now here. I can see an E for everything. This is how Lavina tries to remember things. Just try to link what I already know. Okay, that looks like an E, and here's gather. Let's gather everything, okay? So what we see as part of the tribe in the human context, the elements of the tribe here are actually in a rave, just out according to Ra. They don't exist. So it's going to be something different, and that's why we're going to go over it in detail. So it's something to think about when it comes to a Homo sapiens, we who are intransitus with our keynote of support. This is a huge divide. Ra would call it the great divide between us and them. And what we look on either side here, we have capitalism and socialism, right? Remember from your political mechanics in Rave cartography. So there's a relationship between these two streams in that they're mirrors of each other. Yeah. They're not really a true rhombus. They're kind of cattywampus because you see the heart is over on one side. So they don't have the same kind of geometrical correctness or equality. This one's shorter, this one's longer. That is for a reason. If we take a look at the nature of materialism, this is more on the in, and remember, this side is more on the out, right? Because we have this breakdown of this strength down here, this shortening, flattening of the wave, yeah, as we move forward. So that's another way to remember it. If we look at the nature of this materialism, because this is the heart of the tribal process, which is about money, yeah, and material resources and being able to survive and thrive on the material plane, because the ego circuit is about money and material. This binary is something that is reflected in politics through those who are more cold. The cold gate actually is 44. Hot is more 26 because of the ego being energy. But think logic when you're over on this side. Capitalism is very logical. We cannot have bleeding heart. We cannot let our bleeding heart take advantage or get away with giving away everything. Otherwise, we won't have a business. Yeah, socialism is distributing to the needy, to the most needy, the wealth down to and not equal, mind you. It does not ever go equally. These people at the top still claim more than what is distributed down below, but more goes on the capitalistic side. Look, it's longer. See that? Bigger. So a bigger pool of wealth and resources go here than it does over here. So Ra says that we have the totalitarianism of the individual to the totalitarianism of a party, from capitalism to socialism. There's all these binaries that exist in the way in which the material world is dealt with. And we can see it clearly in our tribal mechanics. So when we're looking at the material function on this side of capitalism, we're looking at the natural source of wealth is ambition, yeah, where it all comes from. The ability to transform, to rise up, to be able to succeed, recognize what it is that others are going to be able to achieve, great expansion on the education. 54s can do that. 45s are mouthpieces, but 54s are driven to expand education because a more educated tribe is more likely to be able to succeed. Wealth creation is here as far as tribally, material strengths here. The stream of capitalism, the channel of money. So the love of success, 44, this is material success. We accomplish this together. If there are two people, the art of capitalism lay here, right? The sales, 26, being able to sell things. So when we look at this gate of ambition, it's part of the channel of transformation. That's what it seeks. It's driven to seek a way to move upward in the program in that material process. And 32s, we have a sharpness for recognizing value, or what could be potentially a bargain, what can be worth something, and what can be honed or fine-tuned. Remember that this is pointed at the ability to have improvement relative to more gain, being able to shape someone out of, let's say, coal into a diamond, rough work, the 54 is the marrying maiden. She wants to turn her life circumstance around and become the 45. She wants to rise up. She wants to achieve. She wants to succeed. She wants to become the person at the top of the hierarchy. So when you reverse these two numbers and you turn it around, it becomes 45, and she can become the empress. Ra would say, do not disparage the princess. Her moon is not yet full. She has a way to go to climb to the top. Who are her allies? The people who recognize her potential. So a 32 and a 54, incredibly important in the relational dynamic. All of this is in order to avoid extinction. Remember, the 44 is fear of the past. It's our genetic lineage dying out. 32 is fear of failure. It is here to remember those things so that it can potentially prevent failure and encourage or provide the awareness that brings success on the material plane. Because once we have enough money, we're able to achieve more together. So if we take a look at that 44, the gate of alertness, the deepest fear of the 44s, we have this fear of the past extinction of our lineage, because we know, genetically speaking, that that is something to be concerned about. If you are human, we have had whole lines of tribes die out or been killed. So to prevent extinction, we have everybody needs this ability to promise, improve the ego. Everybody meaning the tribal. The tribes need the ego. They need somebody to be able to promise, to deliver on that promise, to sell the promise, to be in control of ensuring that these things are balanced. So the egoist, further up here, is the one who can sell things. You've got the salesperson who's able to do marketing, and that creates more money so that we can allow for the maintenance of the tribe. This is where we sell it, and then being able to deliver or create the product is on the other side. So create ongoing rewards like a paycheck, like benefits, so that more and more people can enter into the process, because the tribe is about one thing only here. In human, it's about support, and support takes money. And there it is, the money line, design of a materialist. At the top here, we have the control mechanism, the controlling agent, ultimately where the buck stops. Buck stops here, where we make money. The person that is in charge of being open to releasing money, funds to the 45 to spend if it's in two different people. So what you're looking about here is just about making money. Here's where we make money. I remember somebody scorning me about making money and disbelieving me that I could make money when I would talk about making money. Well, he didn't have strong activations in here like I do. So when you're looking at the tribe on the splenic side, it's soldiers of fortune. Remember, 26 killer T cells. Yeah, the war room. Think about how that is, the killer instinct. So ultimately, it's not about caring the deep, providing for the other. It's no, if you can't do the work, we've got to replace you with someone else who will do the activity and bring home the bacon, bring in the work, bring in the sales. So on the other side, the thing that makes us human, because remember, we're Homo sapiens intransitus with our keynote of support, and we still got socialism going on, its last dying gasp of fundamentalism and communism. We wouldn't like that only by itself. We, as a human construct, we bring in these bargains, warm and fuzzy. If we're going to work, we're going to dedicate ourselves to ensure that we need certain things like the education, the food. This is the mouth and the stomach, right? 40 is stomach, 37 mouth. So the principles that are established in order to ensure that even the needy get the food and shelter and education and so forth and so on, as long as they participate in our principles, our tribal rules. So when we're looking at the material in us, the only thing in us that allows us to freely support the other, the thing that's warm and fuzzy, think emotional system, if it's in a good mood especially, support is so different than share. It's so sharing with everyone, sharing for sharing's sake. Or empower. Empower is individual, you know. Empower is so different. Here we're talking about intimacy, sharing food, breaking bread. You know, you've got a knife at that table. You got to trust somebody if you're going to sit next to somebody with a knife in his hand, you know. So support is an intimacy. Think about intimacy, tribal intimacy, a deep connection to support someone, to look after them, to take care of them, like family. So that is right here where we have the ability to create more, be fecund, so to speak, as Ra would say, to ensure that we have more materially, biologically speaking, as well as business-wise, right there. On the other side, this is taking care of what happens when we make more babies or business. Well, we've got to educate them with the proper values and care for them and so forth and so on, raise them. So make more and take care in a human. Now, where are we going over here? This is not keynote of support. No longer about support. No, it's simply gather. My mind thinks of how the Rave is designed to be able to attune to those of its kind, because without them gathered together in 3 to 5 people, pods, pentapods, if you will, they will not be able to have the kind of functionality that we would assume a human needs in order to be capable and self-sustained and self-sufficient. So that's another reason to remember this term gather. Not only are they gathering, collecting information and perfecting, but they're gathering material. Homo sapiens, we don't just gather. When you talk about material in relationship to a human, we spend it. We have to spend that money to give back to the community, to support small, support local. Anybody ever just buy local, even though you know you can get it cheaper on Amazon because you want to support your little store, because you really like your little store, because it would be horrible if that little store went out of business? I don't like supporting big box stores either. If I'm going to go into a big box store, it's hell, so I just do Amazon. But if it's something I can get at a local small store, I support, because I want that business to be around in the years to come. So we don't just gather, we spend. The lesson as a human, if you just gather, you know, hunter, gatherer, you can only be a nomad. You can't be anything else. You're just constantly moving, never being able to truly build a civilization. It's not necessarily possible here in today's day and age, because we have people living in vehicles and they have the internet. Now they have some semblance of a society, a kind of culture, but it's not static. It's not in a place. It's constantly morphous, moving. So if we look at the genius of a controlling nature in such a way that one can gather and one can restore and gather again, this advent of the agriculture, remember the 19 is the one who is raising the animals, and the 49 is the slaughterer, archetypally speaking, the butcher, right? So if we take away the 1949, because this 1949 and this 2343 is also responsible for what we call agriculture, being able to structure our human living in such a way to where we can raise meat for the slaughter. Part of our bargain between mammals and animals, this situation that sustained us. That's going away. So if you're looking at this, this is not somebody who raises or hunts meat. That's gone. They aren't necessarily able to plant seeds because their process is going to be totally different. We do not know how they are going to sustain themselves nourishment-wise. They'll be very sickly, looking to us, spindly, atrophied, another way you could say that. So according to Ra, this is not a grower over here. We're looking at Rave again. This is not somebody who is going to plant seeds. It just gathers. When we think about what a 26 is, our killer T cells, savage killers, soldiers of fortune, the material plane soldiers, onward and gather, because ultimately that's what we're doing here, gather. And without that 40 as a balance, they're just going to gather and gather again. When we get together in their penta, and what is a penta anyway? You remember what the word is for penta? Naraya, those of you in BG5, what do we use as a term for penta? The material word. It's material. Penta is a material strategic entity. If you equip penta with a consciousness pool in which they become strategic, they're going to get really, really good at gathering. And again, this is not about spending or giving back to the community. It's not going to be the point for them. This is just gathering. So gathering for gathering's sake. In a human, Homo sapiens intransitus, that support, it's not about the human tribe anymore, because human tribes, again, say, well, there's this, it's not just the feel good. I spoke earlier about the feel good. It's also about the logic of such. If we keep our money in a bank, it actually is going, because of inflation, it's just being frittered away by inflation. So you put it in a bank, you're trying to save something, unless you have an investment that outdoes the pace of inflation, you are losing money by putting it in a bank. So just spend it, spend it. And then at least you have food on the shelf in case the inflation goes, or the goes out of control, which it already is, or the food supply, something happens. Have you done that? Anybody else storing tons of food? Back stock of like emergency freeze-dried food just in case? There's this cycle of renewal built into, food, guns, and bullets. I got my first gun, although I gave it to my husband last year. It was way too big for me. So food, guns, bullets, absolutely. To prepare for the unexpected, the whatever it is that's coming, or not. Hopefully it's an or not. I would rather see those bullets not being used at all than having to use them. Humans are expected to spend, okay? Like that give and take thing. You give and thou shalt receive, the expectation of what a bargain will bring. You do this for me, I do that for you. If you earn a lot of money, give some back to the community. Tithe, that's another thing that's here. Tithing, donating, ensuring that people have clothes and food, and that's all built into us to be charitable. That is what it is to be charitable. In the tribe, it's called support. Charitable to those who are needy. So giving. Sometimes we give freely or not, depends on what it is that your relationship is to that human being. Because everything in the tribe is built upon your relatives. You're my cousin, I'm going to give you a discount. Or you're my daughter, I'll give it to you freely. Or not. You've got to prove to me you can earn or be responsible with this money, so please do. In order to have this, I'll give you that, I'll give you that if you do the dishes or whatever the case may be. So support of the needy, those who cannot make money, Those of us who are pretty good at making money, we can give other people opportunities to help us together make money. And raves are not like that. Their intelligence has nothing to do with reproduction and giving back to the community or raising agriculture or doing any kind of farming. What is the word with the is it agriculture when you're raising animals, my friends? I'm like feeling like I'm blanking on animal husbandry. Yeah, that part of agriculture. There we go. Animal husbandry. So when you think about the intelligence of a human being, remember 50 is the root of all intelligence for survival, the gate of values, right? It is the thing in the 50th gate that is the source of intelligence, that our intelligence is necessary in order for us to be able to nurture an intelligent species, or potentially the intelligent species that is created. So we have the intelligence in order to nurture that creation of our species. And these raves, if we go back to just them, they're not really like us. Their intelligence has nothing to do with reproduction. Rooting into that place of attempting to gather as much as one can, but without reason. They're not gathering because they're natural gatherers. They're not going to gather the way that we gather, he says. He doesn't expect them to be very mobile. If you think about somebody who's atrophied and spindly and not very strong, they're not going to run around gathering, picking up things. Their gathering, according to Ra, will happen in a different way. So however that's ultimately going to manifest, we're not really sure. It's just speculation. And so much of this is speculation about higher frequencies. Remember that they're going to be rights. The tonal cognition, right, variable, arrows. So then we're talking about different tonal cognitions, higher frequencies that they're going to be dealing with. And so what kind of material are they gathering? If we look at the tonal level, 1, 2, and 3, smell, taste, outer vision, 4, 5, and 6, inner vision, feel, and touch. Tone is that triangle, in the triangle, that literal architecture of the crystal, of our cognitive potential. So when we humans look at this, what we can actually take in is limited because we focused on outer vision for so many years, 90,000 years. When you go blind, there's all these stories about how all your other senses come to the fore. So when we have our eyes open, that is such a strong feed, information feed, that it's harder to tap into these inner realms. One of the reasons why you see Lavina closing her eyes often to try and focus is because there's too much data when I'm looking straight ahead at all of the information that's coming into the eyes, if I need to really follow a thread inward to feel what is the right word to say. So we gave up our sensory depth, we as human species, for the power of the eyes, because human beings are very visual. And the power of the eyes are going to be diminished deeply, according to Ra, in a rave, because they're not going to be strategic in that sense. They're going to be more on the other side of things, this inner vision, feeling, touch. When we look at right tonal architecture, what we're looking at is an ability to gather different levels in the frequency field, frequencies that range from what would be inner vision, acoustic and auric frequencies, magnetic wave frequencies, the frequencies of the chemistry in the air, the pheromones. Feeling is all sound, which includes electromagnetic frequencies. Feeling actually includes everything. Sound is everything. Vibration is everything. Feeling. So in them, in the rave, it will go beyond the feeling that we as humans who have this can even comprehend or grasp or touch. It's a grasp of frequency, according to Ra. So this grasp of the frequency that they can gather is something that we do not have. So these are the gatherers that are going to gather at the intensity level of these frequencies, what they're going to take in from the frequencies of information, and the information that is going to be taken in at such a comprehensive level of detail that we cannot understand. It's going to provide the rave with extraordinary amounts of information that they are going to do nothing with until they are in penta. So one level of this is just simply taking in all of the general frequency information of any living thing and also any inanimate thing, just taking it in. When we look at another level, one of the ways that people are attuned, people as well as raves are going to be attuned to taking in, is through touch, physical contact. When you make physical contact, you are literally able to connect tactile, in a tactile way. But touch can actually go beyond just the visible tactile sensory capacity. They can probe. Remember how they are here to probe? Raves are probing creatures, densely probing anything that they have physical contact to, which means that they may be able to, this is again theory and speculation, but that it may be able to manipulate anything it can physically touch. So you know how there are some people who are hands-on healers. Yeah, some people who use the laying on of hands, and all of a sudden they can sense into the health of the organs of a human. There are people that literally can do that. And then be able to assist. Raves, I imagine, would be able to do something like this, where they can tap into the being, and who knows what they can do to form an inanimate object when they are in their auric penta and able to touch someone or something. We can't even really quite imagine what that's going to be like. We get to watch for it and see. So this kind of gathering is a level of information that we won't, in this day and age, without any to observe, we cannot grasp it because humans don't take in information in this deep, profound, probing kind of way. So the capacity to take things in is their act of intelligence. My mind is thinking of E.T. because of the glowing fingers, touching and then being able to take in. You really need, according to Ra, to understand the intelligence of reception. So receptive creatures take things in such a way that we who are strategic do not have the capability of understanding. Our strategic nature doesn't understand how is this happening, or what really truly is happening. So the strategic is only going to take in certain things, right? If we go back to what is strategic when we take things in. Oh, I don't like that smell. My daughter runs away. She smell cognition. Taste. I can attune to this with the eyes because mine is environmental. So there's been this building that's been built right across the way of this little dry stream bed that only flows when there's big storms. And it's an older couple, the big gray house, but they put a chain link fence around it, and it has no roof, and it looks like a frickin' prison. It's right across my offices where I look out, where I used to see big, beautiful mountain. So I'm trying to figure out ways to block it out besides curtains so I can still get a glimpse of my precious mountain view, you know? So I don't want that. I won't take it in. I won't look. It's like an eyesore. Kind of like when something hurts. Does it still hurt if I go look at it? Oh yeah, it does. So let me just get something to block it. Dang it. Outer vision. If you don't like the way something looks at, don't look, you know? So that's so different with this kind that has this capability of taking in enormous amounts of information without strategically processing it as we are taking it in. I say we because I'm feeling on the other side of the brain-body system. So we who are right even here now, we do not process what we're taking in as we're taking it in, wherever that is. Same thing with raves. Okay, they're non-strategic with the information that they gather until they are in penta. So this deep probing and penetrating. We take things in so that we can have immediate access. They take things in without an agenda. So if we think about all this gathering, remember, they are right, all right. The penta itself, remember the keynote for penta is material. Okay, material, strategic entity, a transauric form. So if we think about the components of the penta, these pure, innocent, receptive gatherers, no matter their age, just wandering around potentially, or locked up in their institutions, their cages, gathering whatever it is that comes into contact with them, their caregivers who feed them, change them, what have you. So receptive gatherers, all of them without any doubt and no questions, no reason to leave open the portals of their intelligence collection to find an answer. No drive, no need for answers. So if we think about what the penta autive circuit is, remember it was meld. These are melded consciousness that moves through what the penta is. And the penta itself is going to use it. It's going to strategize with it, however it is that it does so. See the left arrow of the penta being left. And Katja, you are so brilliant with your ability to transmit imagery that helps us grasp these concepts. I just want to thank you again for what a gift it is to have your vision of how Ra, I imagine he would be very happy. Jacqueline commented so as well. Very happy with what we're doing here with this material, so thank you. But isn't that brilliant? You see the penta, the large arrow going left, and each of them going right? So much easier to remember with the visuals. So gathering, the material circuit of the rave, gather, whatever is in their zone, they will take in. Whatever is there, they will take in at every single level they can. They will take it in. So according to Ra, he says, who knows, they may be able to take in nutrients that way. I don't know. Now I'm going to pause there for a second and remind you all and introduce, if you haven't heard it yet, remember Design of Forms, where Ra brought up about plants, medicinal plants, where we could take care of the plant, we could talk to the plant, we could touch the plant, we could grow the plant can heal us without us having to kill the plant. Something to that effect is what I imagine. Because he says, quote, I was never told anything in the sense of their eating process other than that meat is something that simply could not and would not be a part of it. So this is a key takeaway to remember, all of you, in your education. Spread it as far and wide as you can. A rave baby should not be forced to eat meat, because how that mutated stomach is going to operate, Ra does not know. How they're going to be nurtured. They will be nurtured. The material capacity of a penta will guarantee it. Now, hear that. If a rave is left alone in a cave or whatever, out in the elements to die, just like if we put a child out in the elements before 7, most likely they're going to die alone. Raves are designed to survive, thrive in their material pentaconstruct. So they are going to be attuned. There will be some kind of recognition of the other rave. And they'll, of course, come together in a pair first, unless there just happens to be another pair already that a singleton is drawn to, or they drawn to it. So when we look at the design of the binary circuit now in raves, this binary circuit has a keynote of caring. Notice what happened. We no longer have caring as part of that material gathering. The caring is over here. And how we can remember this is, do you recall how the 38 and 28 actually literally pulls somebody who is integration out of their trip? So integration gets pulled to quote unquote care about what a 28 or a 38 asks or wants or needs or provides, and just their presence turns their head. Anybody who has strong integration, their head is turned by a 28, 38, or the whole strength. Okay, that's a reminder from your cartography. So when you look at this binary circuit, we know that it's different parts of different circuits in the human. There's centering, there's integration, which is not a circuit, stands alone, and then this is individual knowing. So in the individual Homo sapiens intransitus, we had centering as part of the empowerment. And in a rave, the binary is that it's about caring. Okay, the binary circuit is caring. The centering circuit is our 34, 10, and 25, 51. So this spiral, if you will, centering within on oneself. That's our centering circuit. And if we look at the self-empowerment keynote, integration, we're looking at 34, 57, 10, and 20. So integration individuals, by their very nature, are self-concerned, self-empowered, self-survival, self-awareness. This is not about others. This is about them, power, awareness now. And then, in addition, the rave will have access to, in the binary circuit, is this caring keynote. This is part of the stream of knowing. Yeah? Intuition. So we have this 38, 28, 57, and 20. Remember, 5720 is a health channel. Down here we have a quote-unquote sport channel in a human. So 57 is individual penetrating awareness in the now. It's not about paying attention to anybody else. It's not concerned. It's just awareness, intuition expressed in the now. And that strong individuality integration, if they don't have a 28 or 38 for Homo sapiens intransitus, and even if they just have parts of integration, my husband is not integration. He's got a 57 and I've got a 28. It's such an incredible relationship that you notice. We who are on this side can get them out of their self-absorbed trip. It's just part of our nature, what we bring to the table. The moment that you bring anything with this channel, it doesn't matter whether it's a 38 or a 28 or the whole thing, you as a being change them. You change them in the sense of the way that you condition them. You ask questions to get their health knowledge available to you. You condition them to pay attention to you, because obviously in two people, if one person has this whole strength and the other person is open there, then this dominates. This is dominance. So you condition them, they're learning through the interactive field that they can pay attention to you. In other words, they can care for you. Remember how 28 is a love gate? Love of purpose. So, with this person, potentially purpose, potentially caring. So that's how to remember that there is an element of caring here in the Rave binary circuit. So you have those 3 different processes we just went over: centering, integration, an aspect of knowing through intuition, the stream of intuition. So all of these 3 in a Rave baby will be mutated into a binary circuit. This one binary circuit, this is the binary circuit, where we have caring as a keynote. So no integration anymore. And I imagine no centering within the Rave. It just doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. We have a binary circuit. Yeah, just the binary circuit in them, which is about caring. Everything is going to begin with 2 Raves. The minimum is 2. Everything begins with a 1, but then when it comes to caring, interactive, interdependent, between 2 people, we have 2, right? To care of another, about another. Self-love in a human has to begin inside. I wonder how it's going to be with Raves. Sometimes these 10s, they try to seek love from outside. Why do you love me? What will it be like with Rave? Will they have the pure acceptance because their mind is cut off, their personality crystal is cut off from doubting themselves? Or trying to find an answer outside in the collective when the answer is inside, in their connective field. It begins with another Rave, and they will be attuned or attracted to each other. Ra says his assumption is that they will recognize each other. Look at, this is recognition, right? Capacity. That they will notice, even though there's no penta, there will be something, according to his best guess. And the potential is that once there's 2 of them, they can begin this process of, let's say, coming alive, because they're not here to be isolated and alone. They're not here to be 2 either. They're not, here's the binary circuit with its keynote of pairing, so how they might connect to each other. I imagine having one of them have strong integration while another has this aspect and this aspect. And then, of course, like, what are those magnets that link together? That guy who created these magnets, they're little tiny spheres, and they can create all different kinds of shapes. But imagine that, where they're brought together to integrate with each other. Okay, the 2 is a stepping stone to the 3. So they're not here to be 1, they're not here to be 2, they're here to be 3 to 5. But the power of this particular circuit, the binary circuit, because of their nature of Rave, it's going to be fulfilling for them to not be alone, because now comes caring, according to Ra's estimate. And then once there's 2, they are, according to Ra, suddenly given the power to survive until there's 3. So a Rave baby isolated and alone, besides the fact of you knowing now that Rave children cannot eat meat, it's that they cannot be isolated and alone. They need their others. So the fact that many will be institutionalized is probably a happy accident. No coincidences, but it's a good thing. Okay, so if the parent is struggling and thinking that, no, we've got to keep them home and take care of them, family, blah, blah, blah. No, put them in the institution, because they're more likely to be able to find others of their kind. Because when you put 2 together, their combined aura will pull in the 3rd. They'll find it if it's possible. If it's within their range, whatever that range is, they'll find it. So obviously, if in the same building, they will find each other somehow. some way. So this is where we, us warm, fuzzy human creatures who want to protect our needy, can find some feeling of value in this knowledge that we're learning right now. Who knows? I'm so curious to see which one of you is actually going to bring in the story about observing these in their process. And then once we have the 3, maybe there's another 2, and that full penta, I do not know, what it's going to look like versus this or that, what is there or not. We don't know, he says, I don't know. But it's clear, he does know, that it begins as the binary, obviously. They do not begin as a singularity. So potentially, what if there's a pair of twins that come into the world? Thank heavens for that, where they're both Rave. Hey, because they'll automatically have each other. This is the vast difference between them and us. We are singularity. They are beginning as a binary. That's when they really start to come alive. So this particular circuit is ending individuality. It strips this caring circuit here, this binary circuit, strips the Rave of its individuality because it comes alive in its binary, the 2. So this is transformation or mutation of what we know of as the integration circuit, our oldest construct. You remember that this is the original backbone of what it is to be human, that mutating as well. So in the cross of the sleeping phoenix, if we think about the age that we're entering into in 2027, with Pluto entering into the 41st gate for the first time just around the corner in April, we have this cross of the sleeping phoenix with that 55 and that 59, along with, oh look, mutation of 3420. Hello. So part of what is this circuit, right? The circuit of the binary, with its keynote of caring, here, the background frequency shift. And so understanding something as we move into this age that appears to be a deep age of the era of individualism, the era of the individual for a human, but in the Rave, this is anti-individualism. So although all of us humans, Homo sapien and transitus, will be celebrating our independence and our individuality, there will be quietly growing a small group of individuals, like you and I, observing these non-individuals developing their anti-individualism because they live through the binary. They begin to live through the binary. I would say they live through a penta, because that is their strategic nature. So in these circuits today, in looking at them, do you feel clear about how they establish for us the material gather and the binary caring circuitry that is what the Raves will be? How's that land with you? Make sense? That is our class for today. And we have something from Ra here as an inspirational piece to leave behind. I'm glad that was helpful. Ra says, to begin to see that the Rave is so totally different from what we are, and to see that ultimately what we have to deal with is not the Rave at all, but it is the byproduct of Raves eventually coming together, dealing with the penta. To see that they are so receptive and passive that without the penta, or without the indulgence of humans, there is no survival for them. That they are not individual, that they could care less about differentiation. Differentiation, this is for us. This is human. This is our journey. This is our purpose. Obviously now you can see how they are not us. So different, so much changed.